Well, Larry Hughes is going to pop out and get the ball. Jordan's going to rub his man off of Leitner and then cut down the center and gets a nice pass from Larry Hughes.
Long rebound, Hughes. Fake jumper is good. Give it to me, Larry. Give it to me, Larry Hughes.
Welcome to this week's Bleav in Wizards podcast. I'm Matt Moderna. I'm joined by my co-host, Larry Hughes. And today we're going to be joined by really interesting guest, former Wizards center Brendan Haywood. So Brendan was obviously a former teammate of Larry's and Michael Jordan. So given the news with the documentary and everything going on, we thought it was a nice time to have Brendan on and to be able to talk about, their experiences playing with the GOAT. So Larry, what are you looking forward to today?
Just really to connect with another one of great teammates, good friends around the league. Me and Brendan kind of grew up in the same space. We're in the same high school class, so we traveled around even before the NBA. So just to talk about where life has brought us and just the different experiences that we've had. And he's a colorful guy, man. So I thought it would be good to have him jump on with us today.
Has there been like a former teammate group text going around during the documentaries on Sundays and stuff?
No, it's really through social media now. A lot of people spend time on social media versus even text messages, a lot now. So we are connecting through any post, any sort of history, image that pops up. We connect through that, talk a little bit of trash, on different posts, and we're all connected. So if one of the guys posts something or make a comment on something, we all tend to see it, and then we'll drop comments on it. So that's the beauty of social media for us a little bit older guys that didn't grow up in the space in the NBA.
I would definitely be curious to see what the user usage numbers are for Twitter and Instagram for like the hour immediately after the documentary finishes, because you just see a flurry of posts from everybody and comments, like you said.
Right. Yeah, and just using the commercials to check the messages, not necessarily respond, but but to check them and then get right back to watching.
That's one of the things that's been kind of throwing me with this is that some of them are like sort of fake commercials. They do the vault thing, but then there's statistics. So I'm like afraid to look away half the time.
Yeah. No, it's a great experience, man. It's a great experience, a great doc. Like you said, even I was kind of confused on the first go around of the commercials. When that popped up, I didn't actually know what was going on. And so my son was like, man, that's not real.
Yeah, the Kenny Mayne one that they did, that's the old SportsCenter clip. It took me like 6 times watching that to figure out that they just like dubbed over, like photoshopped in his mouth saying different things now.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's technology too, man. Yep. It's like the beauty of what we have on the technology side. It's like we can connect through Zoom and all these different outlets, man, to really have an impact.
I tell you what, this thing has got to have been good for Zoom as a business overall. I don't know about you, but I'd done Skype or GoToMeeting or all these things, but I had never used a Zoom call prior to all this pandemic stuff. But it's pretty much seems to be now is the only thing anybody uses now. Yeah,
I think it's just the nature of it. I mean, I've tried a number of them, like the GoTos and the Skypes, and now Zoom is kind of the big thing. But really finding what's the most reliable source, and I mean, Zoom has been pretty good. Shout out to those guys, but they've been pretty good so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe we can get a little sponsorship from them out of this if we keep plugging them.
Right. They're giving away everything for free, so they're gonna need it.
Yeah, exactly. So Larry, just want to get your quick thoughts about what you saw, on Sunday night. Anything jump out to you?
Yeah, man, just the coaching, the carousel, and how the coaching works, just behind the scenes communication that a general manager might have or president of basketball operations might have with the guy that's coaching in a completely different league, and being a college game or high school game. Just those relationships that these guys have, unbeknownst to the coach that's actually coaching, that there could be an opportunity where someone else could slide in, and it has nothing to do with wins or losses.
All right, folks, we are joined here today by our guest, Brendan Haywood. Brendan was a 2001 first-round draft pick, was the starting center for the Washington Wizards for the better part of a decade, and was an NBA champion with the Mavericks, and obviously a teammate of Larry's and Michael Jordan. So thought it was a good time to bring him in to talk a little bit about obviously the Last Dance documentary that's going on. Brendan, how you been?
Man, I'm doing pretty good, man. Thanks for having me, fellas.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. I think Larry and I kind of opened the show with a little bit of our thoughts on Sunday night on episodes 3 and 4. But what'd you think?
You know what? I thought the documentary was incredible so far. I've loved everything about it. It's really given us an inside look on that championship team and all that run they went on, all they went through. Thought it was a little bit unfortunate that it seems like Mike and Isaiah still have like bad tension to this day. But outside of that, man, I thought everything else was great. I liked that. Like I loved all the insight into Dennis Rodman and who he was and what he struggled with. And so I like how it's really taking us behind the scenes because, you know, being 40 years old, man, this is the type of basketball I grew up on.
With Dennis in the documentary, just talking about that 48-hour leave of absence, right? I mean, that's, you know, you hear about those kind of stories, but I mean, that's just crazy to think that you can take that time and just go straight AWOL 48 hours, but not only go for 48 hours, but ask for permission to go for, you know, going on vacation. You had anybody through your time that took a leave of absence or vacation, you know, midstream, mid-season?
Man, I don't have anybody that asked for a vacation. That's the wildest thing I think I've ever heard in my life. Like in the middle of a season, not just say, nah, I need a rest day because my knee's sore, but I need a vacation. We both played with Gil, and I thought Gil was like one of the wildest guys I ever played with, but I've never had a guy take a vacation. I will say this. There was one time in Dallas where we could not find Lamar Odom for practice. Like we just did not know where he was. But he didn't ask for a vacation. He was just AWOL for a day. But outside of that, I've never heard anything like this. I don't know what was wilder. The fact that Dennis asked or the fact that Phil Jackson gave it to him. Like, yeah, go to Vegas, kick it.
Right.
Go hang with Carmen Electra. Have a good time.
I mean, I got a funny story. Just Mookie Blaylock, when I was in Golden State, and I would definitely have to fact check this, but Mookie Blaylock left the team, and I don't think I've seen him since.
What? He never came back?
Mookie never came back to the team. We gotta look this up. We gotta look this up because obviously this was years and years and years ago. But if my memory is correct, man, Mookie Blaylock left the Golden State Warriors and did not come back. We gotta check that out, Matt.
No, he just didn't show up anymore?
He didn't show up. I don't think I've seen Mookie since then.
Wow.
Is there a missing persons bulletin out for him somewhere?
Well, he's around. He's around. You know, he's around. He had a son that was playing high-level college football. But I Bleav that he left the Golden State Warriors situation and did not return. We got to fact check that.
Yeah, I had never heard nothing like that. Like I said, the worst I got was Lamar. Lamar was just gone for a day. We couldn't find him. They eventually tracked him down. This is how you know the situation was getting out of hand, Larry. We couldn't find Lamar Odom. When they found him, they figured out he was at his condo. They sent Delonte West to go get Lamar Odom. I was like, who signed off on that? Y'all going to send D West to go get him? Man, that's the blind leading the blind, man. That's like Stevie Wonder telling Ray Charles to drive.
No way.
Yes,
no way.
That is true. We couldn't find Lamar. When we finally figured out where he was at, they sent Delonte West over to Lamar Odom's condo. It was crazy.
Other than GA during the time we played with the Wizards, who would be a person that you would think that would just up and bounce like that? Just during our time, the time we were there. I got a name for you.
Well, I'm trying. See, I was there so long. There's some certain players I got that I'm like, nah, I could pick him, but he didn't play with Larry. While we were there, who?
He marched to his own beat, his own drum. Christian Laettner.
Yes.
I could see Laettner just being like, you know what? I'm going to go off and I'm going to see y'all when I get back. He was the one guy that I think that probably could have pulled that off during the time we were there with the Wizards.
I can see Christian Laettner pulling. Were you there with Samaki Walker?
Yes, I was. Yes, I was.
I can see Samaki doing that too. Because, you know, Samaki would just sometimes be on his own thing.
Yes, sir.
No, do you remember that day of practice? He was just staring at the wall. I don't know what was ingested, but he just was staring at the wall all practice long, man.
Whatever was in that drink, whatever was in that bottle.
I think he might have had something before the drink, but I don't know. But there was this day he was just sitting down in practice. He never checked in, and he just stared at the wall. I was like, man, I don't know what he on, but I ain't messing with him. So I can see Samaki and Christian Laettner maybe pulling that.
For sure. Yeah, the league is full of characters, man.
Yeah.
I'm kind of shocked that nobody's put together a list of like the all 48-hour vacation team, like the Dion Waiters kind of guys of people that would just also march to, to their own kind of beat.
It would definitely
list.
It would not. The list nowadays wouldn't be as long. The list would be longer from when like I first got in the league and when Larry first got in the league, because there was only one drug test. They called it the idiot test. If you passed this one drug test in training camp, they didn't drug test you throughout the rest of the year, so you could do whatever if that was what you were into. So like when I first got to the league, I played with some guys that I was looking at them like, bro, what are you on today? So today is different. They got 4 random drug tests, so it's a lot different. But back then, yeah, there's a whole lot of guys that could have got missing.
You know what? That's why the beauty of the doc, man. It means so much to me. It's for all the other people to kind of see, or the younger people to see how the league was run, and to see how we operate. And I think what's getting a bad rap is like the animosity that people had or players had towards each other nowadays, because we transplanted in today's game and today's environment. What are your thoughts on, we watched in the doc as far as like the shaking hands part of the documentary. I mean, do you feel any sort of way, whether you saw a team, shake hands, or do you feel a certain way if a team didn't shake your hand, leaving the court, win or loss?
Man, if you want to shake hands, it's cool. If you don't want to shake hands, it's cool. It's not the end of the world to me. Like, I know some people are big on it's got to be all about sportsmanship, and I know this has become a big thing because Isaiah didn't shake Mike's hand. But at the end of the day, it's not a big deal for me. If I'm Isaiah Thomas, I wouldn't even address it. Like, you were the bad boy Pistons. Your reputation was we were the bad boys. We did things our way. If I was Isaiah, I wouldn't try to rationalize why I didn't shake his hand. I'd be like, yo, I didn't shake his hand. So what? Y'all can kiss my butt. I didn't shake it then. I won't shake it now. Like, just be the bad boys. That's the image that people are going to have of you. Anytime you go against Michael Jordan, no one's listening because everybody's a fan of Mike. So you might as well just be true to yourself.
Did you, we played against Chicago in the playoffs. Did you shake Chicago's hand after we beat them in the playoffs that year?
I probably did. I don't remember, but I came up on shaking hands, so I'm going to shake hands regardless. But it's like, the only way I would be offended is if I went to shake somebody's hand and they walked past me. Now that I would be offended by. But if like some guys left the court early, that wouldn't bother me. But I think we shook hands with Chicago. That was a wild series. And
that was a wild series. That was a wild year of battling those guys. And whether you shake hands or not, it's just a part of that battle. So I get a little frustrated when I see people think that shaking hands is sweet. I mean, you shake hands if you want to, you don't, and you move on.
Yeah, if you don't, you don't. Like Larry Bird didn't. Like Larry Bird had a quote said he didn't shake hands with the Lakers, Pistons, nobody else. He walked off. Like, I mean, that's how he chose to handle it. Like, I'm not worried about how somebody else chooses to handle it. But like I said, and when we played against Chicago, I think we did shake hands. We beat them in Chicago. We beat them in D.C. That was the game after Gil hit the shot. So I think we shook their hand. Hey man, do you realize that in that moment where Gil hit that shot, that was supposed to be your play?
That was.
That was supposed to be your play.
That was because I don't think he was having a great game that game, and we were struggling a little bit. So that was definitely supposed to be my play. But if you can see my face when he let it go, I knew it was good. When he let it go, I knew it was good, and I just started walking towards the locker room. I knew it was good.
Hey, Brendan, how about a couple years later when you guys had that series against LeBron and the Cavaliers with Gilbert and the free throw stuff? Was there any animosity at the end of that series?
That wasn't animosity at the end of the series. We all shook hands. It was what it was. But during the series, there was a lot of animosity. Guys were going back and forth with LeBron. I had the hard foul on Bron. I think this is when Larry had left, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so we had, Deshaun Stevenson and LeBron James going back and forth. Damon Jones was yapping. I was really mad. Yeah, Damon Jones was yapping because he wasn't even playing. I'm just like, dude, like I'll take some yapping from like, you know, Braun or everybody else, but I'm still trying to figure out why they was even interviewing Damon Jones. You wasn't even getting in the game. And then to make it worse, he was yapping. He wasn't getting in the game, and he hit the game winner in the playoff series to close it out. I'm like, dude, the dude yapping, not playing, gets in and finally hits a shot. This is the worst. But outside of that, it wasn't like I wanted to like punch Damon Jones in the face, or like Damon Jones coached me for a year in Cleveland and we laughed and joked all the time. So it wasn't even like the animosity isn't like what the Bulls and the Pistons had. Like Bill Laimbeer and Isaiah Thomas, they still don't like Michael Jordan to this day, and vice versa. So like I don't believe that exists in basketball back when we were playing in the playoffs. It damn sure don't exist now. And that's just something that got left in the 80s and the 90s.
Yeah, I look at that as just a transition and evolution of the times. I mean, you're not going to like a guy that's swinging rights and lefts. I mean, he's really trying to punch you, or he's really trying to take you out of the air. Basketball is moved to the side when you start to do that. I mean, when you start to throw punches and actually try to, you know, connect with guys. So it's a different game now.
Yeah.
So Doug Collins, man, they talked about Doug Collins. You know,
Dougie.
Documentary. Dougie.
Dougie.
What are your thoughts on the conversations or the comments, you know, just as far as to how, you know, Doug was really, you know, Mike's guy, or Mike was Doug's guy. You know, everything was sort of geared around Mike, and that was kind of his demise as far as being in Chicago. What's your thoughts on Coach?
You know what? This is the part of the documentary that for me is the most eye-opening. Because when I was watching Mike and understanding basketball, it was in the 90s when Phil Jackson was there. I never really watched, you know, 86. I was born in 79. I wasn't watching and understanding Michael Jordan at that age. And so I didn't understand how much, as far as like Doug catered the offense to Mike. And then fast forwarding to when we played with Mike, yo, he did the exact same thing. I was watching the documentary, like, Doug Collins really did the exact same thing, even though Michael Jordan was like 39 years old. Man, we were running the triangle. We ain't had no business running the triangle. Our offense was so bad for our team. Like, I remember you were having a great year at the point. You weren't running the triangle to like their satisfaction. Man, they put T. Lou. You got injured, and they just kept T. Lou in. I was like, Boogie's killing. What are y'all doing? So it's incredible to me to see that the same things that Doug was doing with Mike in the 80s, he was doing in the 2000s. He was really catering everything to Michael Jordan. And the evolution is Michael Jordan became a better player in the triangle. He didn't score as much, but the team won more. And so it was wild to see, like, Doug still try to cater everything to Mike, even though Mike was 39. And then I see why, because that's what he did in the 80s, and I never knew it was like that. But I tell you what, though, Doug seemed real salty that Phil took that job. I ain't going to lie. Doug seemed salty in that documentary.
Oh, man, it brought back so many memories, man. When I saw them or was listening to them talk about, you know, how things were catered to, and even when Doug told the story of, you know, him chewing the gum so much that he had white stuff around his mouth, and M told him, hey man, wipe that stuff off your mouth. It put me right in the space of me looking at Doug with that same stuff around his mouth and wanting to tell him the exact same thing. It put me right back into that space. And I can remember one time, man, we were at home, and the game was going the way the game was going, and it was time for M to come out, and he went to the bench. And he had his set times when he would go back in, and we knew exactly what it was. This particular time, man, it wasn't his time to even go back into the game. And M just got up, checked himself into the game. And that was the first time I've seen a player just get up and walk to the sports table, don't ask the coach nothing, just check into the game. So that let me know, you know, what sort of relationship and who was really running the show, you know, during that time in DC when M and Doug was there.
Oh yeah, I saw him do that a couple times. The one I really saw all the time would be when a player would come in for M, but he was rolling, so he wouldn't want to come out, and he would just wave him off. Like I seen Byron Russell And MJ was like, yo, who you got? He's like, I got you. He's like, no, you don't. You better take your ass back to the bench. I'm like, damn, that's cold. And that's just what happened. But it just goes to show you, like, for me, like, now I understand the dynamic. Doug always catered everything to MJ. And then when he came back, even though he came back in the 2000s, the coach when Mike was older, that was still the relationship. Like, dude, I'm going to cater everything to MJ. So that was probably the most eye-opening part of the doc, was their relationship, because I didn't know much about their relationship in the 80s because I was too young at that point.
That was definitely one that stood out to me, man. So I'm loving this doc, and it's bringing up old memories and old nuggets that we kind of forgot that was going on at that time, man. So I'm loving it.
Good. It's real good, especially now that we don't have sports. It's all I got, man. Every Sunday night at 9 o'clock, my wife already know, man, don't bother me. Don't bring no babies over here. From 9 to 11, I'm watching the documentary now. You better go on about your business. This all I got. It's all I got.
I've been watching the entire series with a smile, man. I actually watch it with the family, so I just look around to see if they see what I'm seeing, see if they're really, experiencing what I'm experiencing. And it's not quite the same because they didn't necessarily, live it, and they can't put themselves in that space. So, but the next one I may have to watch it by myself to zone out.
Brendan, we talked about this a little bit during our show open, and I was asking Larry if you guys have like a former players group chat going on, during the documentary. But Larry was saying, it's kind of checking social media and refreshing during commercials and stuff like that. Is that how you've been kind of processing things?
Yeah, man, I got like some of my friends that I talk to, like I'll check in sometimes with like Jared Jeffries. We talking about certain stuff like, yo, that's wild, because he played with MJ too. He was with us, but we don't really have like a group chat or anything like that. But I'll just check in with certain guys, like just looking at the documentary and just seeing what their perspective is. And everybody has their own perspective based on if you played with Mike, what years you played with Mike, and if you played with him at all.
One of the things you hear is that maybe Rip Hamilton toward the end of his time in Washington had a little bit of tension with that, what we were just talking about with the way Doug kind of ran the offense through MJ. Did you feel that in the moment where there was some kind of tension, I guess?
I'm not sure if I felt any tension because Rip was so much younger than Mike. And whether there was tension or not, only Rip could answer that. I know Rip ended up signing to the Jumpman shoe brand. So if there was tension, they found a way to dead it quickly, because throughout Rip's career, he always wore Mike's shoes. I tell you what, if I don't like you, I ain't wearing your shoes all the time. So
good point.
Maybe there was a little bit of I don't think there was a contention. I don't think there was any tension. I think maybe there was a disconnect on how the offense was being run, because I know Rip had a good year, and then next thing you know, he was gone, and Jerry Stackhouse was brought in to replace him. And there was definitely a tension between Stack and Mike. Like that was it was never anything said, but man, you could cut that tension. Boy, you could cut it with a knife. Like, especially when they had to go against each other in practice. It was like Stack wanted Mike to pass the torch, but Mike wanted Stack to be his new Scottie Pippen. And man, that was some tension. But Rip and Mike, I never felt that.
Yeah, I just put myself back into that space too, man. And just those guys being from the same area, they went to the same college, basically playing the same position as a two guard. And it was just, Stack wasn't willing to relinquish the fact that that's MJ. Like, he wasn't willing to say that's the guy. Obviously it was later in M's career, but, I just thought that was an interesting group of characters that we had, because we had a lot of guys that were willing to fight, and willing to scrap. But I just think the whole hierarchy of, who was actually leading, was it actually the coach leading, or was M actually leading the situation, which that probably caused the most, tension. And I can remember playing, I think I was actually injured or just watching or something when we played the Lakers out in LA.
Ooh, Kobe. Kobe got cooking that night.
I think Kobe had I don't know.
Kobe had 40 in the first half.
He had 40 in the first half, and man, Doug Collins tapped Kobe on the backside and told him, good work or good shot, and Stack lost it. Stack lost it on Doug, just for the fact that if you're rolling with me, you are with me, and you're definitely not congratulating the guy in midstream when he busted my ass. And that, from then on, man, I just think it was a done deal from then on.
Do you guys feel like those, that team in particular underachieved that year because of some of the behind the scenes stuff? Like, I think you guys went 37 and 52, I want to say, somewhere in that ballpark. Should that team have been better?
Nah. I don't think we underachieved, man. Like, if we really thinking about it, the whole process and setup of the team was backwards. I didn't know it at the time, but basing your offense around a 39-year-old, 40-year-old aging superstar, not developing your young guys like Kwame Brown and Jared Jeffries, myself, all those other guys, Larry's young, like, that's backwards. You don't base you don't fight to be the 8th seed and make the playoffs and feature older guys and not your younger players. And Stack wasn't, and even with Stack, I think Stack was maybe like 27. So the offense, Stack the offense probably should have been built more around Stack, if we're being honest. That's what you would do if you were from a GM standpoint today. No GM is like, man, we're breaking our necks to be the 8th seed and focus our offense around our older players that are in their 40s. Like, that is backwards. So I don't think we underachieved.
No, I think we were really going through the motions as far as to just trying to understand, what kind of players we were going to be, in the league. Like Jay said, we were young. I mean, I was coming his first time in the free agency, and those guys had just gotten drafted. I mean, so this was a young group. We were, trying to figure it out. So I think where we went the next couple of years, the next year after that, I mean, that's where the growth came from. But you can see the young guys kind of get a chance to play some basketball there.
Is that hard in the moment to just sort of say, okay, maybe we're not making a deep run this year. Let me just take what I can, what I can learn from these guys, what I can get from MJ, what I can work on with my own game. Is that a hard thing to kind of put the winning aside and just sort of focus on growth and development?
It's not really hard because you don't know any better. I was a second year player with MJ. I didn't know how a team was supposed to be run. Like, I know that now, but that's because I've been retired for 5 years and I played for 14. At that time, I'm so happy to be in the NBA, playing on a team, getting a chance to learn from Michael Jordan, that I'm not even focusing on the fact that our front office is failing us and doing things backwards. Like, I'm just like, I'm trying to be the best player I can be. I'm trying to establish myself in the league, get a little bit of respect, get to my next contract, get me a little bit of some of that change. See, Larry was on this second deal. I was trying to get there. I was trying to eat, baby. I was trying to get to the yams.
Well, that's like you said, you never know until you know. And you have to experience it. You have to go through it. I was really happy to be recruited and signed, with Washington. I mean, M was playing, but he was really leading the offense as well. So I was just kind of happy to be involved with the situation. And I didn't know what I didn't know. I was just happy to be there.
I'm actually glad you asked that question, because that is because I was a young player and didn't know. And then when you go on to other franchises, you start seeing how things are done. That's what organizations talk about when they talk about organizational culture, because the organization sets the culture for how things are supposed to be done. So the young guys that don't know, they learn quickly and they learn how to do the right things. And so, like, that comes down to culture. And I didn't know what culture was supposed to be when I was that young.
Yeah.
So is that guys like, the general manager or the coach or whoever kind of taking you aside and sort of explaining like, hey, here's where we are in this process and this is what we're looking for, goals for the year, that kind of thing?
The general manager doesn't really say what the team is supposed to be looking for, but for the most part, they tell you, like, the general manager a lot of times delegates that responsibility to the coach. And your coach gives you a role definition of what you're supposed to do. One of the biggest things I learned from going from Dallas to DC was role definition. It was important to Dallas. Like, if you stepped outside of your role, you're going to the bench. Like, if you were supposed to shoot the ball and you didn't shoot, you're going to sit down. You were not going to sit down for not taking shots. For missing shots, you're going to sit down for not taking them. Or if you were a guy that, for me, I was a rebounder, shot blocker. If I came out there taking a fadeaway jump shot, my ass was going to the bench. And so when you're a young player, you need to understand what working looks like and what and how you work as a group. Like, everybody's on the same working wavelength, and then understand what your role is. In Dallas, if you didn't play a certain amount of minutes, you had to run immediately after the game. You had to get your cardio in, and you had to come in early the next day. That was the requirement. And then when you got in the game, this is what you were allowed to do. And so you understand what the culture is set. In DC, like, we were just trying to figure it all out on the fly. And then on top of that, we're we're favoring everything towards MJ. So it was a very weird culture. I didn't understand how weird it was until I was out of it and more of an adult.
Yeah, and I say that they are, speaking the same language. You have the general managers and the coach, they're speaking the same language. And players quickly know when there's a disconnect between, what the coach is saying and what the general manager is saying, because things, for some reason, are somehow always leak out to what the expectations are from a general manager standpoint or from the organization standpoint to what the coach is doing. So what makes it most important is to have those players around that present that culture or they have that culture built in, on the court. And then that's where you can see that transfer between, the organization and also make it to the players as well. But if you don't have the players in place to represent that culture, it's not going to work. I mean, I can remember learning, just the little small things from guys. And maybe it wasn't the organizational culture, so to speak, but it was the way of the league and the way how things operated and how Charles Oakley would carry himself as far as being a guy that sets screens and communicates to his teammates, or how Jerry Stackhouse wouldn't back down from an elephant. These sort of things that players carry with them, you kind of start to pick up certain tendencies and traits. And as a young kid, a young player coming in, you need that organization to really solidify stuff so you can be successful. Sometimes they blame it on players and, this guy's not successful or he can't do this or he can't do that. But just look at his foundation, look at his organization, look at, who he's following, and that can tell the story in a lot of situations when you start to talk about what a player can and can't do.
You guys both came into Washington, Larry, when you signed, and Brendan when you were drafted, and it was the sort of Doug Collins, Wes Unseld, MJ, dynamic, but eventually transitioned to Eddie Jordan and Ernie Grunfeld. Did things improve in that regard when it got to those guys? Were they more cohesive or on the same page kind of later in your Washington tenure?
It's kind of like Larry said, you can tell when guys aren't on the same page. We knew Ernie Grunfeld and Eddie Jordan were never on the same page. They were never on the same page, and it was easy to see. And it's not like players are looking for dissension so they could go to one or the other, but you understand when the GM and the head coach are in lockstep. And so that basically says, listen, I got to get in line because I can't jump the head coach's head and go over him and talk to the GM because I'm not going to get any sympathy there because they're on the same page. It was easy to see that Ernie and Eddie weren't on the same page. And honestly, we lacked structure. We had incredible talent, but we lacked structure. One of the first things that myself, Caron Butler, and Deshaun Stevenson said to each other, probably after when we got to Dallas, we're like, yo, this team is winning, but we had more talent in DC. We had more individual talent, but we would just go off on our own thing. And so you could really see that even though Eddie Jordan and Ernie got there, there still wasn't the structure in place. I think the best example of a player leaving DC and finally finding structure would be JaVale McGee. Because JaVale McGee was in DC and he was just all over the place. The structure wasn't there. Now, since he went on to Denver, he played a little bit better, but still, it wasn't the same. When he went to Golden State, it was almost like for the first time in his career, he had structure. This is the way things are done. From the top down, all the best players echoed the same things as the coaching staff and the GM. And JaVale became a key member and contributor of a championship team. And on top of that, he was able to go to the Lakers and get several contracts and play well for them. People forget, before he signed there, he was on his way out of the league.
And those guys with structure are able to change what the narrative is. And I think that's important that we highlight that. Is just because the game is getting so big, because so many players are coming in and they have potential, they have this huge ceiling that people are creating for them. But if these guys don't roll into the right situation, then you talk about a 2, 3, maybe a 3-year career, with all the talent in the world, but with no structure. So that's very important to being successful, man. And I definitely think that if I didn't have the structure that I had with going to Cleveland, really was starting in Washington. I mean, I feel like I figured out some things that work as far as how to prepare myself, but it was different going from Washington to Cleveland as far as the understanding, what that order was, what that cadence was going to be.
And one of the things I think was underrated about Larry, because Larry doesn't talk a lot, but when he speaks, it's powerful. We'd always talk like, yo, like whenever Gil would go off on the deep end, like Larry could go talk to him. And we'd be like, yo, what are you saying to him? You don't even be saying but like 3 words. And Gil will be back. And so when you talk about the structure and you talk about the culture and leadership, the one thing I think the Wizards messed up on is that when they let Larry walk, they didn't realize they let the leader walk out of the building. Everybody thought Gil was the leader because he was the loud one with the most bravado. He was scoring all the points. Larry was the one that could speak to everybody. He could come talk to me and be like, yo, Eddie's tripping, chill. He could come talk to Jared. Jared, I need you dunking everything. He would get Jared in a more aggressive mind state. He could even talk to Eton Thomas, which was different because Eton was on his Black Power Zen stuff that a lot of people didn't even mess with him like that. Larry could go talk to Eton. Yo, I'm going to give you a couple looks on the block, but I need you to do this. And then he could go talk to Gil, and Gil might be out in left field talking crazy. And so when you talk about culture, when you let the leader go, then the culture goes a little bit awry. Like after Larry left, he probably didn't realize this. Like we had literally had guns in our locker room. But before we had guns in our locker room, we had a BB gun fight in our locker room and nobody was suspended. That ain't gonna happen with Boog on the watch because the leader was gone. And then Ernie and Eddie, they weren't doing anything as far as like discipline and speaking to guys the way they needed to. So that's a key component into being a good team is to understand the culture and leadership. We literally had a BB gun fight, multiple BB guns, BBs popping off all around all the lockers, and nobody in the front office said anything. And then we get guns in the locker room and they wonder where they came from. Well, hell, you didn't say anything about the BB gun fight. They thought it was all good.
The natural progression, right?
Yeah.
the natural progression.
Yeah.
I felt that, man. I felt that because I think that like we're similar in age and you know, I could have conversations with everybody on the team in a way that they knew that I wasn't trying to get over on them. I wasn't trying to take away, you know, their shine because I was such a, you know, kind of a laid back guy. When I spoke, you knew that it was for real. And if I said that I was going to pass you the basketball at the 2-minute mark, then I was going to pass you the basketball at the 2-minute mark. So, you know, when I left to go to Cleveland, it was really tough because those were my guys. You know, those are my guys. And, you know, I tell this story, I've told this story before, if I had to do it all over again, if I stay in Washington, we have an opportunity to do some really, really good things, right? I mean, if I stay in Washington, we have the opportunity to do some really, really good things because we had size, we had aggressive guys, we had guys that liked each other. And then we were young because these guys are still on rookie deals. So blame it on Ernie and not so much on Shep.
Is that a conscious decision on your choice? Like recognizing that, hey, maybe there is a bit of a leadership void, so I need to pick my spots and kind of speak up on certain things? Or is that just how you're wired and it just was a good fit for what that team needed?
I think that's my nature. That's my nature. I mean, you can't talk about it all the time. You just gotta present it and have people gravitate towards you. And then once you get that confidence that you know you feel that they know that you want to lead them down the wrong road. I mean, me and Brendan, we talked about, or in games, we would throw the ball up. Why not drive the basketball and just toss the ball to the rim? He's 7 foot everything. He'll get it, catch it, and put it in. But we couldn't get 3 or 4 guys to actually have that thought process while I was there. It may have happened after I left, but I was trying to get that mindset through the entire team is to make sure that we, you know what I'm saying, make sure that everyone can play to their strength. I played fast. I took a lot of bad shots, but I was going to steal the basketball and get it back to make up for me taking that bad shot. And that was a mentality that I had. If I even thought that I did something that wasn't right, I was going to try to go and steal the basketball so I can make up for my team so they would know that, hey, I'm still in it with you, even though, you know, I went off on my own a few times.
Hey, I got one question I know this is y'all show, but I got a question. I've never what the hell would you say to Gil to get Gil back in line? Because once you left, no one else could talk to Gil. Like it was like, big brother left, I ain't listening to y'all. Yeah. What the hell were you saying that would get Gil back in line when he would go off on a tangent?
You know, man, it was a look. It was really the eye contact. Like, it was really the eye contact. Like, I had GA, you know what I'm saying, when he first came into the league. So, you know, when he needed to eat, I made sure that he ate. He needed clothes that everybody was wearing that he spent all his money he couldn't go get. I made sure that he had it. So anytime that I would look GA in the eye, he knew that that's where I was taking him back to. Like, look, it's me and you now. So that was really, you know, that was really our process. It's our process today. When he started going off wild, I shoot him a message and be like, man, what's up? And the mad scientist that he is, he, you know, he'll laugh and he'll giggle, but some of those things change. People may not notice, but some of those things change and they don't really know why. So, you know, that's my brother, man. You know, it's really that eye contact that you have. You just had a kid. Wait till you start giving that eye contact when they screaming and running all crazy. it just take those eyes, man, to get them back in line.
Now I know. All these years I wanted to know. I thought it was a catchphrase or something. It was just the eye contact.
No. Craig, another story too, man. GA, you know, we used to play cards on the plane and whatnot. He got down to Stack, and Stack was ready to do something to him. And GA came to me and was like, man, you got to get Stack off me. So I had to go to Stack, talk to Stack, be like, you know, he's a loose cannon. You know, he's a wild boy. Don't do nothing to him. So I got GA. I saved GA not one time, but many times on and off the court.
Stack don't play about his money, man.
See them little things come up. Oh, it's go time.
Man. Stack don't play about his money, man. You better off owing the IRS than owing Stack. Stack and Oak, you don't want to pay. Hey, listen, Stack and Oak are two guys that you do not want to owe money to. I remember I bet Oak, it was like $500 on like a football game, a college football game. I forgot that I bet him until I was getting right to the practice facility. And my man was riding with me, and all of a sudden I was like, yo, I got to get to an ATM. He's like, dog, you're going to be late. I said, I'd rather be late than have to owe Oak some money. I'll take my chances. I'm going to go get this $500 if I know what's good for me. Hey, this is only my second year in the league too? Man, please, I wasn't trying to see that smoke. I went ahead and got that money. I made it on time, but it was by the skin of my teeth.
Right.
Oak had that $500 in his locker when he opened it up.
Right on. Hey, what were your thoughts, man, when we walked in and we got MJ, we got Charles Oakley, and we got Patrick Ewing? Like what are your thoughts when you walking into the practice facility, or just knowing that, I guess Oak was playing, but he was really on the coaching staff, but just knowing that these guys were around? I mean, what was your thoughts now?
It's funny that you asked me that, because I talked to Oak about that earlier this year. I did some big 3 games, and we were working out in the gym, and we just got to talking for like 15, 20 minutes, which is crazy because I never really had a relationship with Oak. And so we were talking, and he was talking about the young guys today and how they don't get it and this, that, and the third. And I said, oh, it's because those young guys didn't grow up the way I did. I came into practice under you, Stack, MJ, Pat. If I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing, all y'all were going to get on me. And if I had anything to say, I had to fight 3 out of 4 of you. Like, that was like, I said, that doesn't exist in today's game. So I think having like true OGs, like true vets that have been playing for like, 8, 9, 10 years that people respected, that like, listen, you can go back and forth, but when Oak speaks, it's time to be quiet. There's not a lot of locker rooms that have that nowadays, because the league has gotten so much younger. So many guys are coming out after 1 year. That rule looked like it's about to fall down. Kids are going to stop in a couple of years, are going to start going straight from high school to the league. The league is so young right now that your veterans are guys that have been playing for like 6 years, but they've been in the league since they were 19, so they only 25. And so, like, for me, especially on the way in and looking at how the league was on my way out, I understood that having those veteran presences in the locker room really, really helped police things and keep some of the foolishness and unprofessionalism out of the locker rooms and practice. Because, man, when you got somebody like Oak and Mike and Stack, man, listen, you're gonna play hard and you're going to practice hard, or else.
I feel that. It taught me too, man, is to get you a big. Get you a big or enforcer that you really, that you get cool with. Because that guy's going to be with you. You couldn't come close to MJ, in the practice court. If Oak's on M's team, like, you're not coming close to MJ. He's setting screens, he's grabbing you. But that taught me a lot as far as the relationships within the basketball game and on the court, of how to support, one another within the game. Like you got somebody that's chasing you down or somebody that's grabbing you. You go get that big and be like, look, I need to run him off you. Help me out. And then I go to that big, say, if you help me out, I'm getting to the basket, throwing that lob. So those are the things like in the basketball mind, and I teach a lot of basketball now. It's like now that I've had that experience of learning and understanding, like these are the things, B, that I'm trying to give to the young people who are starting. I mean, even in the middle school game, but just that mindset of if you figure out how to help your teammates within the game, you guys are going to be more successful and you're going to be more successful, but you're also going to gain a friend that's probably going to be with you for longer than the basketball game. I mean, if you call MJ right now, he knows exactly where Oak is at, and vice versa. And I think that's the beauty of the basketball game, especially coming up in those days.
Yeah, that's key. That's definitely key.
All right, so Brendan, I've got one I've been dying to ask you about, and this was a little before Larry's time, but I just started reading this When Nothing Else Matters book about MJ's comeback, with the Wizards with you guys, and there's one story early on about, I guess in practice your rookie year, Kwame was feeling himself a little bit, pushed MJ to play one-on-one, and had an early bucket or early block or something, and talked a little shit. And then MJ just demolished him after that. And at the end, screamed in his face, "You better call me daddy, MFer," and just went at him. Did you remember anything like that? I mean, that kind of dynamic between the two of them?
No, I didn't see that. I didn't really see that. I know that Kwame was always trying to show MJ that he was deserving, because we all grew up watching MJ, and that was another weird dynamic of that team. MJ was a player / GM, who plays with their boss. Right. And so Kwame always tried to prove to MJ that he was worthy, but MJ's like, listen, you can say whatever with your mouth, your actions got to do it on the court. And Kwame was so young, so immature that it just didn't always work out for him. I don't remember that particular instance. I don't doubt that it didn't happen though, but I don't remember that particular story. But no, MJ is cutthroat. If you say anything to him in practice, he is going to try to find a way to get the last word. He's going to get the cooking out there. He was old, but at the end of the day, he still had that pride. So you didn't want to get too loose with the lips. And then he, like Larry said, and then he had Oakley as his enforcer. I know one day Kwame was talking to MJ, and I think Kwame was playing, but Oak didn't realize he was. And then we in shoot around in Chicago, they're going back and forth, and Oak just pours a Gatorade on Kwame's head, man. And man, you don't talk to Mike like that. And then looks at him like, what you gonna do? I mean, Kwame looking at me, I'm like, man, you better don't look over here for no help. Yeah. I'm trying to find my own way.
So listen, I got one just to kind of close it out, man. We had and it's been on the internet or whatnot, but we got into a little scuffle with Chicago one year.
Uh-oh.
Right? We got into Chicago with a scuffle. And whatever the case is, it's really in the heat of the battle. So after that was over, it was pretty much over, so I thought. But just to let you know, when I went back to play in Chicago, I got the side eye. So when I left Cleveland to go to Chicago, and those guys, Kirk Heinrich, Luau, BG, Ben Gordon, those guys were still there. And just talk about the years or the level of animosity or just tension that was there. Those guys still looked at me with a little bit of side eye. So it never really goes away. If you battle between those lines as competitors, we always kind of hold on to that. It may not be now because everybody's done playing, but there is always there's something there when you battle between the lines and you continuously see these guys over and over again. There's always some get back there. So just to keep that 100, there's always.
Well, Kirk probably didn't like you because I went back and looked at the clip. You kind of pushed Kirk hard as hell.
Yeah. Well, I think I pushed somebody into Kirk.
No, I thought you pushed Kirk into somebody.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I was definitely the offender.
I remember because somebody was going for a layup and you pushed Kirk Heinrich into him. And then once again, you'd already talked about making sure that your big had your back. Once Kirk rolled up on you, I was like, hold up. Yeah. I might not have fought for nobody else. If it was Gil's my guy, but Gil ain't passed the ball to me enough for me to fight for. So if I didn't even realize until I went back and watched the clip a year later, I pushed the hell out of Kirk Heinrich. I pushed him hard as hell. And then after that, Antonio Davis pushes me, and then all hell breaks loose. But this is how I knew Larry was my guy. Because after Antonio Davis pushes me, and Larry realizes that I'm standing up for him, Antonio Davis got to be about 6'9", 6'10", all muscle.
He's a big boy.
Larry pushes him as hard as he can, and then he tilts his head like, "What up?" I'm like, "Yeah, bug." and then after that was a melee. We all just went crazy. I don't know. Like I smacked Antonio Davis. He charges me, tackles me. We on the ground wrestling. He about to get the better of me, and then my man Mike Ruffin comes out the blue, puts him in the full Nelson, and saved my life. Hey, book, true story. Book, what's the boy's name? Mike Ruffin. The next year was in Milwaukee. He wasn't with our team like a year after that. His daughter was talking to me about her Girl Scout cookies and how she wasn't going to meet her quota. I said, "Baby, your daddy saved my life. I will buy every last one of those Girl Scout cookies." I don't even like Girl Scout cookies. I had so many Girl Scout cookies that I was passing them around to everybody in the Wizards arena, like the janitor, a ticket guy, anybody. Y'all want some cookies? I got Thin Mints. I got whatever you need. I had a locker full of cookies because I bought every last one of this girl's cookies because of that fight and Mike Ruffin helping save me. I don't know why I slapped Antonio Davis. I have no idea. I'm still trying to figure it out.
Man, that's why I love y'all, man. That's we went out and we fought, and like I said, we grew up, in the same space and been playing, for a long time, and we don't get to see each other as often as we used to, man. But always respect, my dude.
All right, man. Appreciate it, man. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Brendan.
All right.
All right, everyone. That was our interview with Brendan Haywood. We hope you enjoyed that. It was nice to hear he and Larry's, reflections on their days together in Washington. So those are the kind of interviews we're going to try to bring you on this podcast throughout the summer, especially without any actual basketball to talk about. So stay tuned for more things like that. And we got a couple more big time guests lined up for you. So find us on social media. Let us know, any comments or questions you have or suggestions for guests. We're always looking for feedback. So with that, this was Bleav in Wizards, BLEAV in Wizards. Make sure to rate, download, subscribe, and leave a review if you're so inclined.